Vihari Radha Madhava Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopijana Yasodhanandana Pradanada Yasodhanandana Pradanada Yamunatira Vrajari Yamunatira Vrajari Jayo Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Radha Girivaradhari Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Narayanam Namaskritya Naranjaiva Narottamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudiraye Nastapreshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Shloke Bhakti Bhavati Naishtiki Tarajastamo Bhava Kama Lobhadayasche Chetayatayana Vidam Sitvam Sattve Prasidati Srimad Bhagavatam, 1st Canto, 5th chapter, Narad's instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam, text number 14. This is the last verse of the chapter. You do call and response, or you don't have a verse on the board, so I will just chant it. Tvamapyada shruta vishrutam vibo samapyate yena vidam bubutsitam Prakyahi dukkair muhurarditatmanam Sanklesha nirvana mushanti nanyata. Tvam. Your good soul. Api. Also. Adhabra. Vast. Shruta. Vedic literatures. Vishrutam. Have heard also. Vibho. Of the Almighty. Samapyate. Satisfied. Yena. By which. Vidam. Of the learned. Bhubutsitam. Who always desire to learn transcendental knowledge. Prakyahi. Describe. Dukai. By miseries. Muhu. Always. Ardita Atmanam. Suffering mass of people. Sanklesha. Sufferings. Nirvanam. Mitigation. Ushanti na. Do not get out of. Anyata. By other means. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Perhaps, therefore, no. Please, therefore, describe the Almighty Lord's activities, which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas, for that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men, and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. Purport. Sri Narad Muni, from practical experience, definitely asserts that the prime solution of all problems of material work is to broadcast very widely the transcendental glories of the Supreme Lord. There are 4 classes of good men, and there are 4 classes of bad men also. The 4 classes of good men acknowledge the authority of the Almighty God, and therefore such good men number 1, when they're in difficulty. 2nd, when they're in need of money. 3rd, when they are advanced in knowledge. And 4th, when they are inquisitive to know more and more about God, intuitively take shelter of the Lord. As such, Naradaji advises Vyasadeva to broadcast the transcendental knowledge of God in terms of the vast Vedic knowledge which he had already attained. As far as the bad men are concerned, they are also 4 in number. First, those who are simply addicted to the mode of progressive fruit of work, and thus are subjected to the accompanying miseries. Second, those who are simply addicted to vicious work for sense gratification, for sense satisfaction, and so suffer the consequence. Third, those who are materially very much advanced in knowledge, but who suffer because they do not have the sense to acknowledge the authority of the Almighty Lord. And fourth, the class of men who are known as atheists, and who therefore purposely hate the very name of God, although they are always in difficulty. Sri Naradaji advised Vyasadeva to describe the glories of the Lord just to do good to all 8 classes of men, both good and bad. Srimad Bhagavatam is therefore not meant for any particular class of men or sect. It is for the sincere soul who actually wants his own welfare and peace of mind. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purports of the 1st canto, 5th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Narada's Instructions on Srimad Bhagavatam for Vyasadeva. Again the verse, Tvamapyadabra Shrutavishrutam Vibho Samapyuteyena Vidam Bhubutsitam Pratyahi Dukkair Murarditatmanam sanklesha nirvana mushanti nanyatha. Please therefore describe the Almighty Lord's activities, which you have learned by your vast knowledge of the Vedas. For that will satisfy the hankerings of great learned men, and at the same time mitigate the miseries of the masses of common people, who are always suffering from material pangs. Indeed, there is no other way to get out of such miseries. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupakidamhayam Dadati Svapadantikam Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Giradhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langayate girim yat kripadamaham vande Sri Guru Dinataranam Paramananda Madhavam Sri Chaitanyeshwaram Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Hare Krishna. Speaking to the wall. So with the blessings of His Holiness Guru Prasad Maharaj and all the Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis, I apologize, you were expecting Maharaj to speak, most likely. So he asked me to give the class. Here in this section of Srimad Bhagavatam, we find Narad Muni's instructions to Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva had written the Vedas, he had written the Mahabharata, the Bhagavad Gita, and so many other wonderful books. Yet he felt dissatisfied. He did good work, but good was not good enough. Have you ever done your duty and you didn't feel satisfied? You were like, okay, that's it? Is this it? Is there more to it? Have you ever felt like that? 5 people say yes. Okay, that's pretty good. So, it shows there is good, better, and best. Being good is not good enough. And we'll discuss about this today. Because Prabhupada in the purport, he mentions 4 classes of good people and 4 classes of bad people. And what is the solution for all of them to come to a higher state of consciousness? So Vyasadeva had done good work, no doubt about it. He had compiled all the Vedic literatures. He is the literary incarnation of the Lord. Yet, he was feeling dissatisfied. And right in the beginning, Narada Muni, his guru, came and he asked him, could it be that maybe you have identified with the body and you have emphasized a lot of activities that are related to the body and you have not really given people the highest objective in life? Could that be a possibility? And he also shared his own life. He gave his own little biography on how he went on his path of enlightenment. So here, in today's last verse of this chapter, he is asking his disciple to describe Krishna's activities, because that will actually satisfy the hankerings of persons who Srila Prabhupada calls them who are sincere. The word sincere comes from Latin, sincerus, it means without wax. In Roman times, when people would sculpture in stone, sometimes there were cracks, there were flaws. So They would cover up the flaws with wax. And the artist who would not do that was known as sincerus, or sincere. No wax. He would not put any facade, any gloss. Just like we say that when we're in front of Krishna or the spiritual master, we're naked, which means they can see all our flaws, they can see all our mistakes. We're not trying to cover it up, to just put on a nice shirt and a nice smile and say, everything's fine, everything's perfect. And then, well, guess what? It wasn't so fine, and it wasn't so perfect. So, to be sincere means to admit to one's shortcomings, to one's frailties, to one's mistakes. Because unless that level of introspection, that level of self-assessment is there, we're still in denial. We're still in denial. You know what denial means? Something bad happens and say, no, 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 it didn't happen. That's denial. Huh? It wasn't bad. It wasn't that bad. In fact, some of it was quite good. I liked it. I'm enjoying my misery. People make all kinds of philosophies where they justify, you know, you got to take the good with the bad. Have you ever heard of that? We drove here and we saw there was, you know, shops called, you know, the strugglers. And have you seen the strugglers? There's the strugglers, the hustlers, the, you know, the, hey, you know, a few potholes and you know, but otherwise it's not that bad, you know, like we're doing pretty good. Why? Because we got street food, you know, like there's food in every corner. So I guess I'm fine. I get something to eat. That is the lowest level, annamoya. I eat, thus I exist. That's like animal existence. Then there is pranamoya. Oh, I breathe. I'm alive. I'm not getting killed. So I guess I'm fine. I'm doing good. Then, higher level than that is jnanamoya, means I actually think. Like, I actually use my faculties. And I can question, I can read, I can get educated. Then vijnanamoya means I understand I'm not this body, I'm a spirit soul. I'm something more than just a living organism. I have a spiritual life. I am the soul, I'm not this body. And then the highest, Anandamayo Vyasa, I'm an eternal servant of Krishna. I engage in devotional service. I practice bhakti. So in the hierarchy, in Maslow's pyramid, the hierarchy of needs, on the bottom is food, shelter, protection, then education, then actual self-realization, which at the end he very rightly points out that real self-actualization, self-realization means to understand our position and what is our actual function, which he defines as what is my contribution? How can I serve? How can I give back? How can I fulfill my potential by being of service to others? Which is pretty good for a materialist. Of course, Krishna is missing in the picture, the transcendence, but he was a good man. Let's put it that way. He was a good man. But again, good is not good enough. Why is good not good enough? What does Krishna say in the Bhagavad Gita about the mode of goodness? What is the conditioning in the mode of goodness? There are two main characteristics that are there in the mode of goodness. What is the problem with the mode of goodness? Conditions wants to happiness. Yes. Did you ever meet people who say, I'm happy, I'm fine. I don't need anything. I don't need your book. I don't need to go to the temple. I don't need to chant anything. I'm fine. I'm happy. You met people like that, right? Yeah. And the other one? Happiness and? Did you ever meet people who told you, I already know this. It happens, right? Sometimes you meet people in Bhukti Sibhushan, they say, I am knowing everything. And I'm always tempted to tell them, well, you're not knowing English, but you're saying you know everything. But then I usually get the other devotees and say, hey, you got to come and meet this guy. He knows everything. Like, you have to meet that guy. He knows everything. That's pretty something. I was up in Rishikesh, the self-proclaimed capital, the Mecca of yoga. And it was the International Yoga Festival. I used to bring about 12 devotees up there to do Harinam Sankirtan, which is chant Hare Krishna in the streets and distribute Prabhupada's books. It was wonderful. It's like hunting in a zoo. You know hunting in a zoo? I mean, we don't hunt, but if you were to hunt, a zoo is pretty easy. So, and I approached a middle-aged man and I gave him the Bhagavad Gita and he looked at me and he said, I'm a yoga teacher. I know all this. And I realized that if I say one more word, it's game over. You know that situation? When you're like, if I say one more word, it's like, it's over. So what do you have to do? You just have to zip it. You know, zip it. Just be quiet. But then, what do you do when you don't know what to do? Any suggestions? What do you do when you don't know what to do? Have you ever been in a situation where you didn't know what to do?
Pray. Pray.
Thank you. Thank you. There's a good audience here, you know? You pray to Krishna and you say, Krishna, if I've ever done anything good, if I've ever chanted your name, if I've ever done anything that pleased you, please give this sukriti, give the benefit of that to this person. Because right now this person is a little proud and a little distracted, but you're in his heart, you can reach him. And he was looking through the book and he was, you know, not like antagonistic, but just standoffish, like, you know, back off, you know. After about 5 seconds, he looked up from the book and he said, I feel love coming from your heart. How much is the book? Now, I could not reach him, but Krishna is in his heart. Krishna can reach everybody. Huh? Have you ever had that experience? That there are certain people, they're beyond your reach, but Krishna can reach them because he can reach anybody. So, in a similar way here, Srila Prabhupada in his purport, he gives us very, very interesting advice. He speaks about the 4 classes of good people. Chaturvidha bhajante mam janak sukritino arjuna arto jigyasu radharthi jnanischa bharatarshava. Krishna explains in Bhagavad Gita there are 4 kinds of pious people who turn to him. One is artha. I need money. Have you met people like that? I need money. They are chanting the mantra, Rupi, 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 Rupi. Dhanam Dehi, Upapatyam Dehi, Dehi Ma Dehi. I need, give me. You go up to them, you want to give them a book, and they say, why don't you give me a donation? You know, I got family and children, like you're single, so you should give me a donation because I have so many people that I have to feed. Definitely a few people of that category. Artati, people who are suffering, people who are in distress, the strugglers, the people who are struggling in the material world because there's so many difficulties. There is the different kleshas, the different sufferings. What are they? Adhyatmika, Adidaivika, Adibhautika. Sufferings from body and mind, sufferings from the climate, and sufferings from higher living entities. Of course, here you live in paradise. You may say, suffering from climate? What do you mean? What are you talking about? Well, sometimes it gets a little hot. right? And sometimes it gets a little wet, then it gets a little humid, and then the mosquitoes come out. So there's always something that's not perfect. Otherwise, why are we constantly shifting and trying to readjust our situation in this world? We need air conditioner because we're conditioned. So many conditions are there in this world. So, the pious people, the one who is in want of money, the one who is suffering distress, and then the one who is looking for knowledge. He's desperately trying to find out how to get ahead in the game, how to better his situation. Did you ever meet people who were educated in the University of YouTube? Have you heard of the University of YouTube? They have clicked their way through the galaxy, and they have watched pretty much every video and every short and whatever else there was to watch. And now they know because they have done their homework. So now they're educated. So they're inquisitive. They want to acquire knowledge. And then people who are Gyanis, they actually want to ascertain what is the difference between matter and spirit. What is the higher truth? What is the higher objective? What is transcendence? So these are the four kinds of pious people. They turn towards Krishna. And then there are the four kinds of bad men. The bad men. Namangdus kritino mudha prapadyante naradama maya paritagyanam asuram bhavam ashrita. Dushkriti. They're bad people because they're involved in destructive activities. Prabhupada describes them as those who are addicted to the mode of progressive fruitive work and thus are subjected to accompanying miseries. That's pretty much everybody. Right? So, those are simply addicted to vicious work for sense gratification and so suffer the consequences. The Mudas, the Naradamas, then the Mayaparita Gyanas, those who are materially very much advanced in knowledge, but they suffer because they do not have the sense to acknowledge the authority of the Almighty Lord. So they have knowledge, but their knowledge is only partial. It's not complete. They don't really understand the bigger picture. Where is this all coming from? Who is really running the universe? And people who are outwardly atheistic, they're against God because they're envious of Him. Whatever you say, they're against it. We both read the Bhagavad Gita day and night, but you read black and I read white. So whatever you say, they will say the opposite, just as a matter of principle. Have you met people like that? They will just contradict whatever you say as a matter of principle. Why? Because they're against Krishna. Because they're envious. They're envious of Krishna. They want to kill Krishna. So, Narada Muni advises Srila Vyasadeva to describe the glories of Krishna, to do good to all 8 classes of men, both the good and the bad. Srimad Bhagavatam is therefore not meant for any particular class of men or sect. It is for the sincere soul who actually wants his own welfare and peace of mind. Yatredyante katam rishtas trishnayo prashamo yatra nirvairam yatra bhuteshu nodvego yatra kaschana. It is also stated in Srimad Bhagavatam that wherever and whenever people gather together and hear Srimad Bhagavatam, what happens is they become free of hankering, lamentation, fear, envy, and material affliction. That's pretty good. That's pretty good before breakfast, right? At least during the time while they're hearing the Bhagavatam, they become free from these material afflictions. Did you ever feel fear, anxiety, material hankering? All that will go away when you read the Bhagavatam. Have you noticed that when you have a problem, you just open up one of Prabhupada's books, and Prabhupada explains, he gives the solution of our problem right there in that verse. Has this ever happened to you? Yes or yes? Please say yes. Thank you. You're a good bunch. I knew it. It was worth coming down here. I mean, you live in paradise. It's amazing. You got fruits dropping from the trees, and birds are chirping, and everything's wonderful. I spent a lot of time in Russia. You know, Siberia is cold. It's pretty plain. But thing is so good here that people have forgotten how good they have it. And so they have to start creating trouble. Because we're in the material world. We're supposed to suffer, right? So, because you have to suffer, so we have to suffer from self-imposed misery, right? We create all kinds of things so we can really suffer. Like, I was in so many countries, even poor places, like I was up in Puno, which is in the Andes. It's on Lake Titicaca. There is the Bolivian side and the Peruvian side of that lake. And although people are in the mountains, it's above 3,000 meters altitude. You can hardly breathe. It's really hard. It was below zero temperatures. And hardly anything grows. And people are really poor. Yet there's a casino on every block. Not only a casino, there's also sports betting, you know, where people bet on sports. They go and watch horse racing. So you can bet on anything, you know. And I'm like, they don't have money. They don't have money. And they go betting. Why? Self-inflicted misery. Because you're supposed to suffer. So let's find out some more ways how you can suffer, how you can get miserable. There's a pharmacy here on the way. It said, just step in here and you already feel better, just when you step into the pharmacy. And that's a good one. Why would you feel better? Because you can get rid of your money? Huh? There is about 15,000 people a month who die from medical malpractice in the United States. They're misdiagnosed, they get the wrong medication, the wrong treatment, they get killed. But nobody goes to jail. It's not a problem. It's not a problem. But something else happens and the country goes to war. So, why self-inflicted misery? We have created all these unnecessary necessities that just make us very, very sick and very disturbed. So Narada Muni, being very compassionate, he gives the antidote, he gives the medicine. Titikshava karunika surida sarvadehinam majata satrava santa sadava sadhubhushana. The ornaments of a devotee are not their jewelry, their wonderful car and house, etc. But they're their good qualities, their good character. Titiksha, tolerance. How tolerant are you? How tolerant are you? That is being tested every day. Karunika, to be merciful and kind to other living entities. There's so many people who are suffering in this world. Humans, animals, plants, insects. There's a lot of suffering going on. Yet who feels it? Who is disturbed by it? And who makes a plan to alleviate that suffering? Who is the well-wishing friend of other living entities? People are so selfish, they only think about themselves. Only I think of myself. Everybody else only thinks of themselves. It's a joke. Everybody is self-absorbed. Narcissism has become a globalized phenomenon. And no country and no demographic has a monopoly on stupidity. It's also a globalized phenomenon. And And we're buying into whatever propaganda is out there. Whatever it is. Whether it be destructive, addictive. People are very busy selling it, buying it, consuming it, without understanding that it ruins their life. So, we need to hear the Bhagavatam, who gives us a different type of information. In this material world, it's a closed circuit. We only have red, blue, and yellow. Goodness, passion, and ignorance. And a combination thereof. 8,400,000 species. This is anda. It's an egg. It's got shells. Each one 10 times bigger than the other one. That's a pretty big shell. For if you compare. It's a pretty strong shell. Like sometimes you get coconuts, they're a little hard to cut. Have you noticed? So this universe is an egg. It's a big egg. No information that is from outside, except the transcendental sound vibration. Krishna svadamapagate dharma jnana divisaha kalanashtam drishamesha purunarkodunodita. That the religious principles, Dharma has taken shelter in the Bhagavatam. When Krishna left this planet, Dharma took shelter in the Srimad Bhagavatam. So we're very fortunate that we have Srimad Bhagavatam. Srila Prabhupada said, I have not gone to the West. The Bhagavatam has gone to the West. I was the one who was carrying the suitcases. I just came to bring the Bhagavatam. In fact, he printed a pamphlet, a little hand flyer, and it said, Message of Godhead, spreading all over the world. He said 60 or 80 volumes. What did it say? Was it 60 or 80 volumes of Srimad Bhagavatam? He already announced he only had 3 volumes. But he had a plan. He had a very clear plan. He didn't go all over the world. He had a ticket on a steamship to New York. But he had a vision. He had a plan. So, what is our vision? What is our plan? Breakfast, lunch, dinner? Or something more, something beyond that? I have my gate, I have my remotes, I have my insurance, I'm not getting killed. That is just Annamoya and Pranamoya. I am educated, I know how to move in this world. That's Jnanamoya. If we don't come to Vijnanamoya, I'm a spirit soul, I'm eternal, I'm Satchidananda. And thus, I have this greatest gift that brings an obligation to share this message with others. We will still be in conditioned existence, suffering the threefold miseries of life. So Srila Prabhupada stayed up every night to give us Srimad Bhagavatam. One time Harikesh Prabhu asked Srila Prabhupada, he said, Srila Prabhupada, is it offensive to say that your books are getting better and better? Because he was transcribing the tapes as Prabhupada was dictating them. He was transcribing. He said, is it offensive to say that your books are getting better and better? Because that would imply that before they were not so good. And Srila Prabhupada looked at him with a big smile and he said, you think so? Srila Prabhupada was working very hard to give us the Bhagavatam. Do you notice when you read? Prabhupada is like, okay, we have completed this canto. We're embarking on this new canto and is praying to a spiritual master to please give him the potency to be able to accomplish this monumental work. So Srila Prabhupada has come to deliver us the Bhagavatam, the message of Narad Muni, the message of Krishna, the message of Shukadeva Goswami. Yet, we're too busy doing other stuff. We have asked congregations around the world, how many of you have read the Bhagavatam? About 10% of our own people. How many of you have a set of Bhagavatam at home? Now, Bhadra Purnima is coming up. Did you hear about Bhadra Purnima? Bhadra Purnima? You know there is a benediction that if you give someone the gift of the Bhagavatam on Bhadra Purnima, on the full moon day of Bhadra, that you will go to the spiritual abode. So give yourself the gift, because charity starts at home. If I don't have it, how can I give it to others? People will ask you, well, you're trying to give me this book, but what does it describe? What's in it? And you say, no. My spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, he wrote these books for you to read and for me to sell. Will it be very convincing? Not so much, right? Some people may call us hypocrites. So we're very fortunate. Srila Prabhupada instituted Bhagavatam class, Bhagavad Gita class. So please, take time every day. Have a plan for reading. Did you notice that if you fail to plan, you plan to fail? If you don't have a plan, it's not going to happen. The mind says, I will read whenever I have time. I got news for you, whenever never comes. Have you noticed? In Spanish they say mañana. What is the saying here? The day after. Not tomorrow, but the day after, right? Or let's talk about it. Yeah? Let's talk about it. When should we talk about it? How about never? How would never work for you? Yeah? And thus it never happens. Meanwhile, we have watched all the series of whatever soap opera, whatever nonsense is out there. Subscribed to any type of mundane news. Answered every believable and unbelievable message and piece of propaganda that passed our way. But we don't have time to read the Bhagavatam. So please, make time. One way how to make time is you get up early. Srila Prabhupada got up at midnight without an alarm clock. And he translated 6 pages every night. So first thing in the morning, open up the book. Do you know that 70% of people on the planet, they check their messages before they go to the bathroom? While they're still in bed. I'm not going to see a show of hands. I'm not going to ask you what you do. But I have one humble suggestion. Once your day ends, once your work ends, put your phone in airplane mode. You know that little airplane there? You've noticed? Use it, okay? You press that, and all of a sudden it's quiet. There's no more notifications. There's no more messages. And you can read and chant in the evening. Then you go and take rest peacefully. Then you wake up early, and again, you read and chant. You do your bhakti practice. And then you can go out of airplane mode after breakfast. I guarantee you there will be more messages. So there will be more excitement. There will be more endorphin, you know, more stimuli. Please. I tell the kids at the colleges when I go to distribute books, I tell them, this man is from before the web. He's from before cell phones. And they go like, wow, wow. What do you mean, he was not an addict? No, no, you know, like, and then they look and they say, wow, that's a lot of words. I say, yeah, it's called education, you know, that's what you're here in college for. And they say, I thought it was about partying, you know, I thought it was about meeting, you know, girls and boys. No, it's to get educated, to learn something. So let us not lose track of the ultimate goal of life, Prema Pumarta Mohan. And we can only achieve Krishna's grace when we collaborate with His mood and mission, when we try to be helpful to spreading His teachings. Then Krishna will empower us. He will reveal His plan to us. To the degree of our surrender, Krishna reveals His plan. Like right now, I can see there's a lot of opportunity, but there's also a lot of uncertainty in the world. Have you noticed? Because people are uncertain. What is the future going to bring? How are things going to pan out? Why are we uncertain? Because we're not teamed up with Krishna. We're not confident. Shraddha Shabde Vishwash Kahe Shudri Danishchoy Sarva Karma Kaila Krita Hoy. If you have firm conviction that Krishna's plan is going to work out, Krishna has a plan for me, and a plan for everyone. And the more I cooperate with Krishna's plan, the more Krishna will reveal His plan to me. And He will empower me to be part of the solution, to be part of the upliftment of society. He will make me an instrument of His compassion, so I can touch people's hearts. It is possible. I was in New Orleans, in the French quarters, where they do Mardi Gras, big carnival, big party, and there's a bunch of tourists running around buying cheap Chinese souvenirs. And there was one young lady, she was jogging with her big pig bulldog, and she wore all the right outfit, and not your likely candidate, right? You meet a jogger, not like your typical prospect. But at some point she was out of breath, so she stopped jogging, and she was catching her breath. And I thought, well, might as well try. And I just walked up to her, and I asked her, how are you doing? Right now is the best time. You can walk up to anybody and ask them, how are you doing? Because things are not so great. Things are a little difficult. Have you noticed? Have you noticed? Some of you have noticed, like 5 people have noticed. The others are doing perfect. You're to commend. And as I asked her, she just broke down in tears. She just had a flood of tears just came. And she said, my fiancé has cheated on me 5 days before our wedding, and I've decided, I became a vegetarian, I'm going to meditate and become a spiritual person. And I said, lady, there's nothing wrong with you. The world is crazy. You're okay. And I gave her a few books, and she was very happy to receive these books, and she decided, okay, I'm going to go home and read these books now. So she stopped being a jogger, and she just walked straight home to go read the books that she got. Because she realized there is something higher, there's something better than what I've been doing so far. You remember that moment where the lights went on? Where the coin dropped, where you realize there is something better than what I've been doing so far. Param Drishtvani Vartate, that is that higher taste. But we can only share that higher taste if we are experiencing it, if we have pratyaksha, if we have direct experience of Krishna through our practice, our spiritual practice. We meet people every day, and they say, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Christian, I'm a Muslim, I'm a Jew. And we ask them, I'm a Hare Krishna. And we ask them one question, what is your practice? And they say, practice? There is a practice? Don't you see? I'm wearing, then they take out their symbol, you know, they show me their symbol. I say, no, that's a symbol, you know, like you bought that for $1 on the, on the market, you know. No, I'm wearing the dress, you see, I'm wearing the shirt. In fact, I bought the whole kit, I have the whole outfit. No, that is all external. What is your practice? So, we are aspiring devotees. Some are devotees, some are pure devotees. I'm an aspiring devotee. What is my practice? Because without practice, without application, there is no realization. And without realization, there is no transformation. It will simply stay information. People are not looking for more theory. They're not looking for more dogma. They have enough propaganda in their life. Would you like to get converted? Would you like to get converted? No? What about you? How about you? How about you? No? Not too many. Would you like to be inspired? Would you like to be inspired? Yes. When we're out there on the streets and on the campuses, sometimes there's people standing on boxes and they're yelling at people and waving some book at them. Do they do that here in Trinidad? Probably not so much, right? They're more laid back, right? They don't do this kind of thing. But in many countries, you may have seen, right? Preachers who scream and yell at people and wave books at them. And I'm always tempted to go up to them and tell them, my dear sir, I understand you have a very important message, but the way you're trying to communicate it is not working. It has not worked, it does not work, and it will not work in the future. But then I catch myself and realize that probably not such a good idea to start talking to that person. Much better to find some innocent person, some person who still is open. So Srila Prabhupada, he came to share Krishna consciousness with everybody, not just with Hindus, not just with intellectuals, not just with educated people, but with everybody. So Prabhupada said, I have one disease, I cannot think small. He said, I want to spread Krishna consciousness everywhere at once. That's a pretty big plan. So how can we be part of Srila Prabhupada's plan, of Srila Prabhupada's vision? That should be our meditation. What is the most important verse in all the Vedic literatures? Yasyadeve parabhaktir yatadeve tata guru tasyaite katita hirta prakashante mahatmana. If you please the spiritual master, by his pleasure, all the meanings, all the imports of the Vedic wisdom will become manifest, will become revealed in your heart. The zip file will unzip. That's pretty nice, right? Everything will come to full meaning by the pleasure of the spiritual master. The pleasure of the spiritual master is the active principle in spiritual life. So that requires action. The active principle. It requires action. So what am I going to do to help Srila Prabhupada in his mission to spread this movement? So Srila Prabhupada has given us Srimad Bhagavatam, and he has given us his ISKCON society where we can study and apply Srimad Bhagavatam in our own life, in our communities, and then share it with others. And in this way, we will feel very strongly connected with Krishna's internal potency. And that is the, as Srila Prabhupada puts it, that is the most congenial form of intimacy. That is the greatest joy. That is the greatest blessing. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Comments or questions? We just got here from Suriname and Guyana. And I must say, Krishna has given you one of the most beautiful places in the world and one of the nicest people. So what are we going to do about it? There's a saying, use it or lose it. If we don't appreciate what we have, then it just becomes ordinary. Have you noticed? So let us all appreciate Srila Prabhupada's gift. The gift of the Bhagavatam, the gift of this Krishna consciousness movement, by accepting it wholeheartedly and making plans how we can share this with others. Because, as you may have noticed, if your town is going to hell or your country is going to hell, you're going to notice it. It's going to affect everybody. It's going to affect everybody. So, we're very grateful to be here in all of your association and to be able to hear from the Bhagavatam every day. Because otherwise, what would we do? We would check messages in bed. We would run out into the traffic to go to work. And doing things that are wrecking ourselves and wrecking the planet. So Srila Prabhupada has given us this greatest gift of Krishna consciousness. Golokera Premadana Harinam Sankirtan. I was in Jagannath Puri on Chakratirtha Road, and I met a young man. I was riding around on a bicycle, just catching tourists and giving them books. So I met a young man from Czechoslovakia, which is now just called Czech and Slovakia, but for those of us from before, we still call it Czechoslovakia, right? It doesn't exist anymore. Like Yugoslavia, people say, what? What are you talking about? So, and as I gave him the book, he said, I was born in the dense darkness of ignorance, but by the grace of the spiritual master, I have come to light. Like he gave the literal translation of Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya. And he said that his sister's a devotee, and he already read Prabhupada's books. So he was very happy to meet a devotee and to get more books, so he can practice Krishna consciousness. There's a great need. There's a great need. People are suffering, even though it may not be so much visible, but they're suffering from the threefold miseries of material life. And we should give them this medicine. We should give them this medicine, because it is the panacea. It is what will ultimately make a difference in everybody's life. Any comments or questions? Not all at once. I know you're pretty chill. You're doing pretty good. You look like a happy crew. Huh? So now the question is, what's our action plan? How do we go from here to there? Huh? We have to build a team. It's a team effort. There's too many people out there. Sociologists have proven you cannot know more than 150 people. You cannot productively engage with more than 150 people. Jesus only had 12 disciples. Not all of them were that great, you know. Some were pretty bad. A couple did something. So don't think you have to talk to the world. Don't think you have to sell your item to 1% of the population in China. Just focus on a few people. So I think Trinidad, it's not too big, it's not too small, it's a good size country. You can do something here. But we have to start with the most difficult customer of all, yourself truly. The most stubborn, the most evasive, and the most argumentative of all people, yourself truly. So to enter into a dialogue with one's own mind, and to do so by following Krishna's instructions in the Bhagavad Gita and the Sriman Bhagavatam, is truly liberating. Because as long as we identify with our body and mind, we are prisoners. We are prisoners. We are slaves of our self-imposed identifications. We're carrying all these baggage around that we're thinking, oh, I'm my nationality, I'm my gender, I'm my job, I'm my economic, social, educational situation. No, you're not. Huh? Jeev Jago, Gaura Chandra Bole, Kota Nidra, Jao Maya, Pisachira Kole. Wake up, sleeping souls. Don't sleep on the lap of the witch, Maya. You heard of the witch, Maya? Do you know the story of Hansel and Gretel? No? Probably don't have that story here, huh? You got your own stories. So, we should not be complacent. Otherwise, we're in trouble. We're in trouble. It's not a good time to be complacent. It's a time to be active and to join hands, to work together to spread Srila Prabhupada's movement. It's badly needed. There's a lot of ignorance. There's a lot of destructive activities, a lot of corruption. Kaliyadoshanide Rajan. I was in Udupi, and Dr. Kamath, Ayurvedic doctor, who is professor at the Ayurvedic college in Manipal, where they train doctors. He told me, you know, Ayurvedic doctors are not very good. And I know, I'm training them. And then he said, Ayurvedic medicines are also not very good in this age. And the patients, they're not good also. They don't do what you tell them to do. They don't take the medicines. They don't follow the advice of the doctor. Then he said, but there is one good quality. If you simply chant the name of Krishna, you can achieve the highest perfection. And I said, doctor, are you a Hare Krishna? And he said, of course I'm a Hare Krishna. Because in Udupi, everybody is a devotee of Krishna. The whole town is centered around Krishna's temple, Krishna Mat. And most people want to have darshan once a day. Even those who don't have time to stand in the queue, there is a wall in front of the deity, and there is a little hole like this, a little incision, and people stop their car, they get out of their car, or they get off their scooter, they take off their shoes, and they look in that hole and they take darshan of Krishna. And then they pull their ears like, I'm an idiot, I need to go back to work now. You know that mudra, that sign? You know, like, I'm an idiot, I'm a fool, but I'm going back to work now. And they put their shoes on and they go back to the office. But there's that mood, that spirit. If I don't have darshan of Krishna, what's the point? What's the use of my life? So, Krishna, Nama Chintamani Krishna's Chaitanya Rasa Vigraha, Purna Shuddha Nitya Mukta, Binatvam Nama Namino. Krishna and His holy name are non-different. Krishna and the Bhagavatam, they're non-different. If you don't have deities, you can worship the books. You can offer bhoga to the books. This is Krishna, the literary incarnation. Tadvigyanartam sagurum eva vigachet samitpani shrotriam brahmanishtam. It is a Vedic injunction that the disciple should collect firewood for the fire sacrifice. Now, are you going to collect firewood every day for the fire sacrifice? No. But it's a Vedic injunction. So books are made from paper. Paper comes from wood. If we carry our spiritual master's books, we're also carrying the wood. And we're distributing this message to others. So we're following this Vedic injunction by distributing Prabhupada's books. So I have one humble request to all of you. Give yourself the greatest gift of Sriman Bhagavatam. I got in touch when I was 15 years old. I was in a boarding school. Prabhupada came to me in the form of one of his books. And then I wanted to have all the books after a few weeks of reading Bhagavatam and Gita. So the devotees brought me a full set of books, but I was 15 years old. So they brought me second-hand books because they thought this kid doesn't have any money. So they bought me from the library. They just put a set together of old books. But they didn't know that I was working 3 jobs besides going to school. I was delivering newspapers in my neighborhood. I was working for a flower shop to deliver flowers, and I worked with a friend's father in recycling. He worked in some factory, and we recycled aluminum. And I'd saved up all the money, so he said, just give a donation, whatever you like. And I thought, this many books? I mean, that's expensive. So I gave him all the money I had. I gave him $500. In 1984, that was a lot of money. And it was everything I owned. But I was not sure if it would be enough. Now I can honestly tell you, this is the best investment I ever made in my life. So give yourself the greatest gift of Prabhupada's books, and then share them with others by your example, by your words, and also by giving them a book. Please always carry books with you, because people will ask you, are you with the Hari Bols? Do they ask sometimes? Are you with the Hari Bols? And then you can give them a book. Yeah, here, this is for you. And you can also help by giving a donation to, we don't need the money, but if you give a donation, I can give a book also to somebody else, you know. Broadcast, a culture is preserved through mass distribution. Culture is not preserved through legislation. It's not through laws. It's through role models, through good examples. That's how culture is preserved. When Bhaktivinoda Thakur was stationed in Bengal, he could not find a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. That's just a few hundred years after Chaitanya Charitamrita was written. He could not find a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. He had to go to a remote village in Orissa to find a copy of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Just in a few hundred years, it became obscured. It became lost. It's amazing, right? What time does. So we want to see a set of Prabhupada's books in every home in Trinidad. You think that's a good plan? You think that's a good idea? Yeah? Yeah? 3 people agree. Okay. So, let's start with ourselves. Charity start at home. Huh? And make sure that every one of our members has a full set of Prabhupada's books. Some, they may need a plan where they can pay monthly. Some, they may need some subsidy. Somebody can sponsor a few. We did that in ISV. Got 500 sets sponsored in 1 hour. That's Vaisheshika Prabhu. I did it in Philadelphia, on the East Coast, Pennsylvania. And after a Sunday feast program, 21 or 23 sets went out. So, please, help in this endeavor. Otherwise, we're telling Prabhupada, why did you get up at night, you know? Like, why did you write these books? We're too busy, you know? We don't read books anymore these days. I ask kids in campuses, are you a scroller or are you a reader, you know? There's these two, the scrollers and the readers. So what are you? Are you scrollers or are you readers? And they say, both, right? Both. Okay. So, well, here are the books. Well, these books are not different from Krishna. Get books, and you will see how the demographics will change. You have a beautiful temple here. There's space probably for another 250 people. Where are they? They're at home sleeping, right? Because it's Sunday, right? You usually don't get up before noon. Huh? No. You should inspire people to come and participate in the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam. Because if we're not part of the solution, we're part of the problem. Have you noticed? Because we're tatastha, you can't sit on the fence. Did you ever try to sit on a fence when you were a kid? How long can you sit on a fence? Have you tried? We all tried. That's what every stupid kid does, right? You sit on a fence. How long are you comfortable on a fence? Not very long, right? Very quickly, you need to get off, either on this side or on that side. They asked George Harrison, I don't know, some of you might remember Bhakta George from the Beatles. They told him, you're an accomplished musician, you got money, you got fame, you got everything. Why are you hanging out with these Hare Krishnas? And he said, it's very simple. If you line up all the people, and you have, like what Prabhupada calls the good people and the bad people, you put the devotees on this side, and you put everybody else on that side. He said, I'd rather be with these guys than with you guys. That was his explanation. I thought it's a pretty good explanation. So, thank you for taking part in this Hare Krishna experiment. We have great hope and great aspiration that many wonderful things will come from this fertile land of Trinidad, because you have exported people into the whole world from here, and they have done well for themselves. Yet now the question remains, well, it's always the best people who stay at home. It's not those who run away, it's those who stay. So what are we going to do? What are we going to do here to be part of that change? Thank you for your kind attention and leniency. Grantara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripasindubhyevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna.